Oh, there you go. It's just ticked over to 6:30. So, hi everybody. I'm Rachel Clark. I'm really delighted to be with you all, wherever you may be. Welcome to those that are joining us live. Welcome for those who are viewing later. I'm from the Pathways Program at Youthworx, which is a youth organisation working with young people who have experienced hardship and disadvantage, and we do that through media. And I work with these young people to support their pathways to employment. So I'm going to be delivering this presentation every week for the next 4 weeks around getting work. And we're starting off today around employers and who they are. But before we formally begin, I'd like to pay my respects to the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the traditional custodians of the lands and waterways in the area that we now know as Moreland. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, as well as to all First Nations people who contribute to the life in the area. So this is session 1 of a 4-part series called Getting Ready for Work, which, as I've said, is a training program run by Youthworx, by myself. And you can find out the details of the other sessions, sessions 2, 3 and 4. They will run from next Wednesday, the following Wednesday and the one after, until we complete the series. But this session is all about employers. Who they are, what they want from employees, and where you can find them. So there will be time for questions after each section. Because of course you're going to be listening to me, and feel free to make comments ask questions in the comments section, and we can engage that way. So I will pause for questions after each section, but there will be a lot of information. So feel free to ask me as I'm speaking to re-clarify something, or just make a general question at the end of each section, and I'll be delighted to do my best to answer them. So without further ado, I'm going to start with who employers are. Well, there are 4 main types of employers. Let's go through 4 of them. So the first one is private businesses. Second is public employers. The third is not-for-profit. And the 4th is social enterprise. So you probably have in your minds some familiarity with some of those terms and some examples of employers that you know about from your own life that might fit into one of those 4 categories. But let's start with the first one, private businesses. Now, of course, private businesses can be large or small and anything in between. They can be a one-person enterprise, or they can be a global business that operates all over the world and makes millions and billions of dollars. But their purpose is to make money by providing a service. So they are looking for profit. And an example of a large organisation might be McDonald's, and a small organisation, a private business, might be the local milk bar. So that's number 1, private businesses. Number 2, public. Okay, so public are government managed. Now, you know that we have the 3 levels of government. So they're going to be local government, like Moreland City Council, state government, Victoria, and federal, Australia. So organisations or departments that provide essential services to our communities, whether it be our local community or the broader nation. So that's another type of employer, a public employer. Third one, not-for-profit. So not-for-profit does what it says. Its focus is not profit. Its focus is supporting vulnerable people, or those people that may need additional support for whatever reason in our communities. And sometimes charities fall into that category. And an example of that in your area would be Work for the Soul in Preston, if anybody knows that. Let me know if you know some of these places. Give me a thumbs up or a smiley face. And community service organisations, which may or may not have charitable status, but are really widely known in the community, like Anglicare, like Brotherhood of St Lawrence, like the Salvation Army, Vincent de Paul, those sorts of organisations, which probably started really small at one stage and then have just grown. So why am I describing types of employers? Well, the type of employer that you are going to look for to work for, you'll be making those decisions based on what you want to achieve in your work, right? So if you are somebody that's really keen on making money, then it would probably be a private organisation, not necessarily, but a private organisation, a business that you may choose to look for work in. Of course, these are very broad. I'm saying very broadly. If you have more of a values-led or social justice desire for all sorts of reasons. It might be your faith, it might be the way you were raised, all sorts of things. You might choose to work, what do you think? Not-for-profit, social enterprise. I didn't talk about social enterprises. Let's talk about that now. That's the fourth one. So number 4 are our social enterprises, which are a combination of business and not-for-profit. They do a bit of both. And they have a social change mission, but they're looking to make profit as well, because they want to put that profit back into the community. And an example of them might be Big Issue. Youthworx is another example, my organisation. Street, the coffee / job training program that is very similar to Youthworx as well. So yes, that's where I ended with. So the fourth one describes maybe people that if you have a business background but you want to invest your time and energies into social change, that might be where you find yourself in a social enterprise. So 4 different types of employers. They have different terms and conditions, different pay scales. All sorts of things of difference to them, but those are the 4 ones to be thinking about when you're thinking about sort of who are the employers more broadly. All right, I'm going to move on to my next chunk of this first section and then pause for questions. So what do employers in these 4 groups, what do they do for employees? Now, what are they responsible for? Well, we know that they pay staff for work done, right? We're clear on that they need to do that, yes. That's why they're an employer. They also provide work that is either casual, so you get shifts every now and then, or you have a roster, but you're not guaranteed anything, or is fixed term, so you might have a contract for a year, and you work for the organisation for that period of time, or ongoing. So you have a job that continues until you decide to leave it or something else happens maybe with the organisation. But usually you leave it first if you have an ongoing contract. So employers provide you with work in those 3 areas: casual, fixed term, or ongoing contracts. And of course, how many hours you do is also different. So you might be doing part-time. You might be doing part-time hours, which is usually up to about 30 hours classified, because a full working week is 38 hours. And if you're a casual member of staff, of course, you might do different numbers of hours each week. You might do 5 one week, you might do 15 the next. It can vary, but more likely you'd have a sort of regular number that you do. There are some differences as well around holiday pay and sick leave, which if you're on a casual, if you work in a casual basis with an employee, you don't get those benefits. Okay, final thing, employers are responsible for providing a safe and healthy work environment for their staff. And we will talk about that in sessions a little bit later on around what your rights are as a worker. And it's really important that we know them, because not all employers are have the same level of standard of employee work health and safety. And it's important that we all have safe places to work in. Okay, I'm going to pause now for any questions that people might have on what I've said before. We've covered a lot in a short space of time. So any questions about who employers are and what they do for employees? Any questions? Is this I'm hoping I'm going at the right speed. So let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. All right, I might carry on then. So the second part of this Facebook Live event is talking about what employers want from their employees. And that, of course, is depends on the organisation, depends on the type of business, the industry standards, but there are some generic, some shared understandings around what all employers want to see their employees being able to do, right? Even if you are in construction, or if you're in hospitality, or if you're in teaching, or if you're in transportation, employers will want their staff, their employees, to be able to do these three things. Okay, first, work well with other people. Second, be reliable and dependable. Third, have a willingness to learn. So these are key employability skills. We'll talk about this in relation to applying for jobs. So we'll come back to this in following weeks. Let's take number one first, working well with other people. Well, what does that look like? What are the skills and attitudes that employers are looking for? Okay, Jessa, I'm going to pause. That's a great question. Actually, I'm going to take that after this section, okay? So I'll come back to your question. That's a really good one. What are employers looking for people to be able to work well with other people? Well, there's a series of things. And you can imagine right up the top is being able to communicate well with other people, right? So good communication skills that demonstrate clear, understandable verbal communication, non-verbal communication that matches your verbal communication. And by that I mean, if you're speaking in a calm and professional manner, that you're not clenching your fists at the same time. It's quite difficult to do that and speak calmly. So being in sync with your non-verbal and your verbal communication, and also being able to listen, having really good listening skills. So not just speaking, but clearly listening more than you speak, probably. That's the first part of working well. Second is emotional intelligence, being able to understand your own and other people's emotions. Third is teamwork, being able to work in groups with other people. Really hard stuff, this. Fourth is negotiation and influencing skills, being able to problem solve, work together to a shared understanding. And then that leads to the final one, which is managing conflict. So rather than storming out or throwing a punch at someone when things start to go wrong, how do we manage conflict in a way where we keep our cool and yet we're able to express ourselves clearly, advocate for our needs and maybe the needs of other people as well, without being repressed in our speech. So those are really challenging skills. So that's working well with other people. That's number one. That's what employers are looking for, right? Number two, being reliable and dependable, doing what you say you will do. We've all been in that situation, haven't we? Where we said, yeah, no, I'll give you that, or I'll send you that, and then you forget. For whatever reason, valid, otherwise you forget. Not a good look for employers. We all do it, but generally important to follow through. When we say we're going to do something, we do it. You get a lot of credit for doing that with an employer. So what does that actually look like? It's about being organized. It's having good time management skills, being on time. And if you're not on time occasionally, that's okay. But generally, you keep that rhythm of being on time, being trustworthy, not gossiping, not stealing anything. I'm saying the obvious things, but being trustworthy is broader than that, right? Isn't it? Self-regulation, being able to manage your own emotions and opinions and be appropriate for the context that you're in. These are really tricky skills when sometimes we get upset for all manner of reasons. But self-regulation, being able to do that at work is really important. Fifth one is of being reliable and dependable, taking responsibility for your actions. Self-motivation, the final one, being able to take the initiative, be creative with thinking of ways of doing problem solving. That's number 2. Third, a willingness to learn, recognizing that you don't know everything already. None of us do. We're all learning. Until the day we die, we're all learning. So a willingness to learn, try new things, spend time on your personal and professional development, believe that you can actually learn things and that you can change if you need to, and also a resilient demonstration as well. So being able to take feedback when it's delivered fairly and clearly. So those are the 3 things that employers are looking for in employees. I'll just remind you: working well with other people, all that communication, teamwork stuff, being reliable and dependable, organisation, time skills, trustworthy. Third one, a willingness to learn. So trying new things, learning, having a growth mindset, learning all the time. Okay, let's pause for questions. And so this is questions on either section 1 or 2. So either who are employers, and then number 2, what employers want from their employees. And I'm going to go to Jess's question: what are the benefits of working in these different structures, public, not profit? Oh, that's a big old question there, right there. Now, I have my own experience, which is limited to working in public, not for profit. Okay, those are the 2 things I have experience in. What I would say about those types of organisations, for the benefits, if you do choose to work in those, is that if you are somebody that leads with your values, then there's a lot of reward in that. Social enterprise too. That's not to say you're not values driven if you're in a business context, in a private. But for example, the values I'm talking about: community, healing, justice, that sort of thing, has the focus of work in public and not for profit and social enterprise. There are people there, they're driven by that, and you get paid less, but you probably feel really, really good about going to work. Not always, but possibly. Benefits of working in an organisation that has lots of money is, I'm not sure that's the case so much now, but I don't know. I haven't worked in that context, so being completely honest. You might get better terms and conditions. Your salary might be higher. But I'm not sure about contracts. In the public sector, it is, I think, something to be expected that you get quite a lot of job security. Whereas in the private sector, it might be more cutthroat. Not for profit, very little money around, so you might be going from contract to contract. I hope that helps. Okay, thanks for that. It was a great question. Okay, moving on to the 3rd and final section of the presentation, which is: where can you find these employers? Well, they are everywhere, right? They're on your street corner, they're in the city, they're online. The question is, how do you locate the ones that are most suitable for you? Well, I guess you have to first of all decide, don't you, what type of work you're interested in doing, and then you narrow your search from that point. So I work for the not-for-profit sector. So a place I have routinely gone for jobs is a job database called Ethical Jobs. Now that will give me jobs I'm interested in. If I were to go to Seek or Indeed, which are another two databases of jobs, I'm going to get lots of jobs that I have no interest in. It's not to say I won't find a job but of interest, but I know that most of the jobs in ethical jobs will be jobs I'm interested in because I'm targeting my job search in the not-for-profit space. So you have to target it in the appropriate areas. So thinking about more business-oriented areas, Seek, Indeed, Hays, those sorts of websites, not-for-profit, ethical jobs, and others, right? But those are the ones I thought to mention tonight. There are also, of course, employment services that can help you, and we are going to produce a flyer for you, which we will make available we haven't got it yet, but we'll make it available for anybody that wants to download it via Facebook. I think we can do that, but one way or another we'll manage to get it to you, of employment services that are based in Moreland. But I wanted to give you some examples. So youth-specific employment services, for example, that work with 15 to 24-year-olds on the Transition to Work program. Organisations such as Brotherhood of St Lawrence would run that program. Now that goes back to who the employers are, doesn't it? The employers being the not-for-profit in this situation. Yeah, supporting young people to get into work, social change, etc. There's also organisations like Squad who work with apprenticeships and traineeships. Again, this will be detailed in the information that we're happy to share. And then for the broader community, you've got beyond young people specifically, of course, that's my focus area. You've got Workways. There's a focus on disability and youth there as well. WISE Employment, WISE Employment, who support job seekers who experience anxiety and other health conditions. And you'd have, with those organisations, all the ones I've just mentioned, you'd have case support. So you'd have a worker working with you to help you find employment, work with you on interview skills, work with you on job application processes. So really, really helpful available services out there. You may even enjoy them so much you might want to work for them. Then the other organisations might be jobfind.com.au or jobsearch.gov.au. So there are government services that are supporting Australians, people living in Australia to get work, especially if you're moving from one industry to another. During COVID, lots of disruption. There's lots of support out there, and so it really is a good place to start. One of these larger websites like Job Search or Job Find, and work your way from that point forward. But as I say, you'll have some supportive material to look through as well. You can also Google, work support employment services and see what comes up. Google is really our friend in this. So there's lots of ways that you can look for jobs once you've decided the sorts of jobs that you have suitable qualifications or you're interested in working in. A word on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a fantastic resource, and it's worth spending some time creating a LinkedIn profile because you can attach that to your resume, and we'll again talk about that in a final. In one of the sessions coming, how you can create a resume that really stands out from the crowd. But LinkedIn, having a really good LinkedIn profile, and there are videos on LinkedIn that you can go to watch to make the best use of your LinkedIn profile. You can find employers, you can follow employers. So it's like Facebook but for work, and so you can start to build up a network there and see what's happening in organisations and what the trends are, who's delivering training, etc. And then that links to the next part of it, which is being able to meet people in person. So that first section was about resources that are online, where you find employers online. You can do a lot of research from home. But then actually meeting employers in person is really valuable. And you can do that in different ways. So you can do that by walking around your community, introducing yourself to people that you'd like to work with. Going into your local cafe. Many people have got jobs doing that. Talking with people, expanding your network. Now, this is easier for some people than others. I know some people are are not comfortable doing that. But how about then talking with your own network and saying word of mouth, saying you're looking for work, and does anybody know of any openings that are available? And you know, people often get their very first jobs or their second jobs or whatever through word of mouth, and it's such a useful and a really powerful way of moving between work and getting work in the first place. So that might be a family, it might be your friendship circle, it might be your local neighbourhood house going to ask for some advice, whole local library. So many ways that you can get support but make yourself known in a way that's safe, of course. Yeah, and you can also join networking events. So sign up for things, go and meet people who are in the similar industries to you, and make a good impression. You know, dress smartly, wash your hair, read up on the stuff that's happening in industry, and go ready to talk to people. That's often a way that people move between roles as well, by really good networking skills, and you do that in informal and formal networking events. Anyway, that's almost my time, so again, lots to say. This is where I'm going to pause and say, do we have any other questions? What stood out for you maybe from that list of information? What have you taken away that is most useful? I hope you have taken stuff away. Getting work is challenging, especially if it's your first job. And yeah, thanks, Moreland. This is one of the first of 4 sessions. The other sessions are, let's have a look at that, shall we? The other sessions are writing a resume that stands out from the crowd. That's next week, same time, same place. Session 3, the week after, interviews, how to prepare and what questions to ask. We've probably all got some interview stories to share. And then the final one is session 4, workers' rights and responsibilities. Yeah, jobs, absolutely. So some of the main job websites again, and again, we'll get a list of this for you available. So let's start with jobsearch.gov.au, right? Government organisation set up for both employers and employees. Jobsearch.gov.au, jobfind.com, similar type of thing. You go on and you can get support as a potential employee. WISE, W-I-S-E, WISE Employment supports job seekers with anxiety, experiencing anxiety, living with anxiety and with other health conditions. And Workways is another one, Workways. Squad, S-Q-U-A-D, works with apprenticeships and traineeships. And then the Transition to Work program for young people. Yeah, thank you so much, Moreland. I appreciate you doing that. And remember that you can Google employment services and support to find jobs type thing. We'll bring up a load of really good links. Seek.com, yeah, Indeed.com, Ethical Jobs, and Hayes are the ones that we that we have also. Thank you for typing that up, Heidi. And I think we're almost coming to our 7 o'clock, so I want to I want to thank you so much for attending. I really appreciate your time, both in the live audience, but also those that are watching afterwards. It's a real pleasure to be with you, and I wish you so much luck in your job search. And I look forward to seeing you hopefully next week for session 2. So join us then, 7 o'clock, 6:30. That's just turned 7 o'clock. See you at 6:30 until 7. Thanks, everyone.